think about war, we often think in headlines, numbers, maps, dates, city reduced to names we struggle to pronounce. But war is not abstract. It's lives inside kitchens, bathrooms, classrooms, you name it. Inside a quiet moment when someone realizes that the life they knew may never return. Olga is from Ukraine, and when the world began watching her country burn, she was living inside a reality most of us only encounter through screens. I am Mariatu, and this is She Chose to Rise, a global storytelling and annual book project, a global rise and soul production in partnership with Engage Salon. This episode is not about politics. It's about human cost of instability. About what it means to keep choosing yourself when the ground beneath you will never stay still. This is a story about survival, not as a concept, but as a daily decision, about dignity, about memory, about what it takes to remain human when everything familiar is stripped away. This is Olga's story, and this is why it matters now.
Hi, Mariatu, thank you for having me. I'm Olga, I'm from Ukraine. I was a media manager and a researcher in Ukraine. I worked for the legal practice publishing house, and my main focus area was legal research and rankings of law firms and legal practitioners in Ukraine. But right now I decided to refocus a little bit. Right now I'm working on my individual project, which is dedicated to the prospects of Ukraine's reconstruction which is ongoing and which I hope we have after the war, and better to say after Ukraine's victory in this aggressive war. So yes, there it's me, and another function I have here. It's my I would call it like my mission here. It's debunking Russian narratives, which I hear here unfortunately a lot.
How would you describe that environment that you really grew up in as a girl?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Ukraine. At the time, it was a part of the Soviet Union, but then Ukraine in 1991 got its independence. So I spent pretty happy childhood, I would say, when my parents told me the importance of education and responsibility. From the early age, I understood what is discipline. So during my school time at my university years, I learned a lot. I understand that for me it was very important to learn how to think critically, and what is also very useful right now, how to adapt to different situations. So, but that 90s in post-Soviet republics, and Ukraine was not an exception. It was very unstable time, so probably instability was never an abstract word for me.
Yeah. The way the world is, when you mention Ukraine, the first thing that comes to mind is war, right? But there was life before war.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a good life.
Right. Yeah. So do you want to describe, your life personally before the war in Ukraine? What did normal look like for you back then, or for family? Yeah.
Yeah, actually, we use the term normality because of the COVID period. My life was pretty good. I was quite ambitious. I think I was like forward thinking. I was very exposed to have short and long-term plans for my future, but with this disruption that happened, unfortunately, right now we're not only me. It's not only about me, but maybe for all Ukrainians, we should live in so-called short circles, because you can't plan anything. Russians, they attacking us every single day and night, and especially at night. It's very difficult to predict if you wake up tomorrow or not. That's why it's something that shaped our mindset during these almost 4 years of full-scale invasion, and much more years since the annexation of Crimea, of this war with Russia. So I would describe my life before as a hardworking experience, but I really thought that all my attempts and my hard working, my dedication to what I've been doing could guarantee me stable future. Right now, I realize that nothing in this world is guaranteed.
Nothing in this world is guaranteed. Yeah. Things happen for us to learn the lessons. I mean, whether it's good, it's bad, the lessons, left some good way of thinking, to make things.
And I would also add that we were not restricted in traveling. For example, we had a visa-free regime with the European Union, so it was quite common at that time to spend your weekend somewhere in Europe, in one of wonderful European capitals, or to spend it in Ukraine. Doesn't really matter. And right now, we don't even have civil aviation, only military aviation. So life has changed a lot.
Right. Well, if you're listening to us and you're hearing some movement in the background, just so you know, we are out in the streets of Phoenix, and we're having some good time while talking through and explaining about how Olga chose to rise even amidst challenges, societal challenges, and how you redefined what normal means, So, yeah, we decided to come outside to get fresh air and to normalize things. Mm-hmm. All right, Olga. So, what were you most proud of, or hopeful about in that chapter of your life before the war?
Well, I was very dedicated to the job I was doing. I was, as I told, I was a chief editor, head of the research of Ukrainian publications for lawyers, and I did that with great passion. Mm-hmm. It was a very meaningful project for the whole Ukrainian legal community, and I felt that feedback for decades. Actually, it shaped some standards of communication on the Ukrainian legal market, and for me, it was very important to bring that very how to say it, to bring some impact and to help Ukrainian law firms to develop, to make proper decisions, to motivate lawyers, to empower them, and to create different policies. So I was really very proud of what I was doing, and I hope that even in my absence, there is a very good person who is going to be the chief editor instead of me. I'm going to announce him actually next week. So that's probably I think in terms of professional life, it was my great achievement and great passion.
Right. So when did it strike? Like, when did it come down on you? Like, things were no longer the same?
Well, I should say that it didn't happen like in one moment. It's a very gradual process, and all these transformations are usually happening through sort of crisis, and this crisis became a permanent stance for many people in Ukraine. It's not only about me, but with the war, you understand that every single moment is very important. We stopped postponing things to do for tomorrow, for better future, and there is a very common saying right now in Ukraine: just live your life now or today. So because every moment is very very important, and it can never be the same. It can never be another moment. And in our case, it's in practical term, it means a lot. And this feeling of anxiety, it's in the ear, unfortunately. When you hear sirens every single day, you should look at your phone. By the way, I just wanted to add that our smartphone, it's like a very important, very important, not only accessory, but it's something that can give you information that can cost you life, actually, because you should understand what kind of danger is it. You should manage your stress, and people from abroad, they try to help Ukraine. I've met many Ukrainians who were really very helpful, and they support Ukraine. But from abroad, it's very difficult to understand that environment in which we're living. So, and this environment, unfortunately, it also sharps you. It sharps you. It makes you more resilient, less exposed to spending time for things which are not necessary. Be very careful with your mental energy, with your stress, with the exhaustion. But I don't even want to compare myself with people, and not only men, but also women who are on the front line. They face those challenges which we can never even imagine. No, for us, even like regular Ukrainians who are not on the front line. So.
Right. Yeah. So. What does, this ongoing uncertainty really do to you as a person?
Uncertainty taught me to understand that future is quite fragile, and apparently you are exhausted, but it has very, I would call it, sobering effect when you understand what is important, what is not. You are planning, but very cautiously, and for a very, very short period of time. You understand that nothing is determined. You should take into account so many factors, because when I was in Ukraine, it was quite difficult to plan even your business, and as a media manager, I had to manage my team, and despite my emotional stance, I couldn't spread that emotions on my team. I should demonstrate discipline. I should encourage them to work properly. I should find new clients. I should diversify our activity, and it's very difficult in this situation, because my clients, they also live in Ukraine and they experience the same problems. But we have this, we call it common experience, common historical experience which we are passing together. That's why, it's a very challenging task to arrange your professional life, your private life, your just existence, your survival under these circumstances. So.
Right. The displacement and everything, affect your sense of identity?
Of course, no. Of course, no. Right now, I live like in between worlds, between Ukraine and the U.S. Because when I woke up in the morning, I have so many messages from my friends. I have notifications what happened in my home city, and unfortunately, the capital of Ukraine, Kyiv, my home city, is suffering right now. Russians destroyed power plants, and as we have different weather, different winter, not like here in Phoenix. We have almost 25 in Celsius. It was very, very cold winter for us, and heating, centralized heating is critically important for us for survival. So many people didn't have electricity and heating in their houses. So Russian, of course, it provokes some anxiety inside of me, and I can't detach myself from Ukrainian realities just being in the United States. So one of my missions here, separate from my activities, Hubert Humphrey Fellow, it's just to dismantle Russian narratives, because sometimes I hear some questions about the Russian language, for example, about support of Putin in Ukraine, which sounds for me just ridiculous. Some don't want to go far into the details about the so-called Russian opposition and glorification of Navalny and Russian church and other issues, but I'm working on it quite systemically, and if I meet someone from the United States who's really interested, I'm always happy to have this conversation. I'm taking part in some panel discussions here at the university to talk about it, to tell people what's really going on, because I'm not just a sofa expert. I'm a person from the ground who has that practical experience, and it's very important for me to advocate my Ukrainian perspective here in the United States and to be helpful, at least at this stage.
Yeah. So what part of yourself feels like really the hardest to hold on to during this period?
I think at the beginning it was a little bit difficult for me to understand that I'm at the safe environment, because I have that very natural reactions which are natural for me right now. I'm almost okay with that, but I'm in cross-cultural environment, which is very, very new for me. I feel like I didn't actually realize how important it is, and how many differences and these cross-cultural aspects have, because in Ukraine we have different nations, but not as diverse, of course, as here. So for me it's a very good experience. I learn a lot from other fellows. I'm very grateful for their support, and just having this chance to thank them again for supporting Ukraine. So yeah, actually, I think I was doing pretty well in terms of adaptability, because that's something which I realized it's a very good skill which I exercised here as well. So.
Great. So living through the war as a woman, what changed most for you, and not just your daily life, but in how you move through the war, make decisions, or your thoughts about safety?
I think clarity came. It's not only because I'm a woman, but I would say clarity comes with this kind of crisis. So I've just realized that there are people with those values which I share. There are people with different values, and we were friends before the invasion, but at some point we had different vision, not political. Thanks God I don't have friends who supported Russia, never, thanks God, but just that sometimes the attitude is different, the values, the vision of future is different. Yeah, it was a big challenge for many women in Ukraine, not only for me, because many of Ukrainian men decided to go as volunteers and not as volunteers to the Ukrainian army, and there was a big problem in the society how to live your life when you're the loved one is somewhere on the front line. So there is this huge problem in our society when women should run households alone, like managing teams despite blackouts and outages, do some fundraising, because I have some very good friends who are volunteering. I'm supporting them as much as I can, and it's like I would say that probably right now it's a part of our of our identity to volunteer. And it seems to me that it's maybe it's not the time to talk about it, but probably at some point we have this new type of women's leadership in this critical situation when women are responsible for everything, and they're not able to share their responsibility with men for the same reason that I described before. So something like this.
Yeah. So, were these experiences like fear, for example, or the responsibility you mentioned? I mean, you or other women carried during the war that you feel were specifically, to you being a woman, or things that men around you will have, had to think about in different way?
Yeah, I'm talking right now in general the situation in our society. I think I don't know if men think I think they may think differently, because they can't leave the country, they can't travel because of the martial law, and it's their constitutional duty to defend their motherland. So it's the men are in a little bit different situation. But it's maybe for many people it's from outside, it's not very understandable how it is like to manage all these situations, to go to the shelter, not to go to the shelter. Some friends of mine, they have kids, and it's like double responsibility for these women. And when they are, for example, in the office and there is air raid alert, they should be sure that their kids are in the shelter, and kids were in the kindergarten or at school. So there are so many things to think about, and of course all these problems, all this burden, it sharps our understanding how this life should look like right now, and what is important, what is not important. For me, it's obviously that if I would ever, before the war, complain right now, I stop myself, even when I have these in my mind, even have like, oh, I don't like this, I don't like that. I'm telling myself, Olga, oh my God, there are so many people on the front line, they face something that you can't even think about. So please stop complaining. It's a very destructive feeling. I think it's a very positive change that I can reflect on right now about myself.
So when you look at, still within like the women's perspective, and the specific way of experiencing war as a woman or other women around you, when you look at them during this time, whether they're moms, professionals like you, displaced women, caregivers, as you mentioned, what do you feel the world still does not fully see or understand about women's experiences of war?
The world doesn't really realize and understand and I'm not blaming, just for your understanding. I'm not blaming because it's really difficult to understand when you are not part of this environment, of this problem. How to say it? Don't even want to find the proper word for that. But I think it's more about that this safety is recalibrated somehow. You have this intensified responsibility. There is so-called invisible labor, like keeping household issues. Many people don't understand why people in Ukraine are have this emotional instability, and we have this trauma in the society, and we are going to have this PTSD for many, many years. Unfortunately, it's a big problem, and we need so many psychologists and these kind of professionals to help us to overcome it, even when the war hopefully ends soon. So it's this traumatic period. It's overwhelming for all of us. So. Honestly, to certain extent, I think another positive thing is I just stopped thinking about expectations from the society, because I can say that our society is very conservative, but it's not very liberal, and usually we're thinking about, oh, what about this, what about that, what if I do this, what if I make these decisions. So, and right now it's simply not important, and we concentrate on things which are really matter.
Just so you know, She Chose to Rise is a global storytelling podcast and an annual book project by Global Rise and Soar in partnership with Engage Salon. Both the podcast and the book comprise of stories about women who made one quiet, strong, dangerous but courageous decision to speak when silence would have been safer. Here is an excerpt of Olga's chapter from the book. I learned very quickly that fear does not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it enters quietly, through unanswered phone calls, empty streets, and the way people stop making plans. I packed my life into what I could carry, not because I wanted to leave, but because staying meant becoming invisible to myself. Every choice felt heavy, every decision felt permanent. But even then, I realized something unexpected. I was still choosing, and choosing, even in small ways, was a form of resistance. It hit differently, when you're trying to choose yourself amidst chaos. So what did rising look like for you when survival was the priority?
Oh, actually, I realized that survival is my responsibility. I don't expect any assistance. I shouldn't expect it. If I have it, it's fine. But everything which is going on around, it's only my responsibility. So, yeah, in all senses of this world.
Okay. So tell me about the small choices you made that helped you reclaim a sense of agency, sense of knowing you're still in charge and control.
Well, it was the main choice for this time when I was in Ukraine during the war, it was to leave the country or not to leave. It was very at the very beginning of the invasion, because probably you've heard from the news that Russian troops, they were very, very close to the capital of Ukraine, and probably you've heard what they have done, all that crimes that they have done in the Kiev region. So it was a choice to go somewhere to another country, or to stay in Ukraine, to move to the western part of Ukraine. It was really very difficult to have this clear vision, because everything is beyond your control, and the city was almost empty. There was almost no normal Uber transportation that we had before. It was difficult to get even to the railway station, and these evacuation trains were full of women with children. So you can imagine that panic and that chaos that was this first days of the invasion. So and I decided to stay in Ukraine. I stayed for 1 month, then I went for another month to the western Ukraine to just to normalize my nerves, my emotional stance, because I was really exhausted. I couldn't sleep for a long time just because of this constant anxiety and this alertness, it is still in the air, but I just have that in mind, that first days, and that I think that was the main choice I have made at that period of time, to stay in my country.
Okay. So what surprised you about your own strength as a woman during this time?
Actually, I'm surprised that I can be more emotionally resilient than I thought I could be, and I can adapt to that kind of stressful environment where I lived. Yeah, it's not only about me; it's for all of us, for all Ukrainians. Unfortunately, we had calls from our friends from abroad. They were listening to air raid alerts, for example. They were in panic, and we were saying, "Oh, guys, stop! We should check the situation. Don't panic. Everything is fine." So we're trying, to tell them that everything is fine on the phone, which was quite maybe ridiculous. But yeah, we have this adaptability and this resilience right now.
Yeah. So let's go to what like the world often misses, In the news reporting, the story of war is, mostly about politics, Russia invading Ukraine, and then, so what is usually not told are the personal stories. What do people who watch the war from afar often miss or misunderstood?
Yeah, they misunderstood that all these attacks, all these atrocities that Russia did in Ukraine. Unfortunately, the world doesn't understand that we are paying the highest price ever: lives of our people, life of our soldiers, of civilians also, and the world doesn't understand what's going on the occupied territories, where there are Ukrainian citizens, and they are basically limited in basic state services without having the Russian passport. There is so-called forced Russification of our people. So the world, unfortunately, missed this. Sometimes people don't understand that emotional cost of permanent alert, and unfortunately, information war, which we are also we're fighting not only on the front line, but worldwide, for the brains and hearts of other people. So the information war and Russian narratives also shaped some perception here. So the world also misses it, in my opinion. And in this, like this very geopolitical frame, unfortunately, human reality disappears. And this information about casualties, for example, is just statistics right now. And the situation about Ukraine sometimes in this public discussion is reduced to headlines or statistics, which I'm trying to improve here with bringing my Ukrainian perspective and talking about it more and articulating these problems here.
Yeah, talking about bringing that perspective. What is the hardest part, to explain to someone who has not lived it?
It's sometimes when foreigners come to Ukraine, come to Kyiv, for example, this summer, which was a little bit less hard for us. In terms of Russian attacks, people can see that we have during the daytime we have a normal life. Cafes and restaurants are open. People are trying to get some rest, get some fun, and Kyiv is a beautiful city. And sometimes for them they have this kind of dissonance between that life continues, but it's permanently changed, actually, because if they spent nights or in Kiev or a week, they may see that the situation is a little bit not the same like during the day. So it's difficult for them to explain that we still want to smile, we still want to live our life, we still want to enjoy, and for us the taste of this fun is very different right now, very different.
Yeah, so reflecting back and finding new meaning, how has this experience reshaped your understanding of home, safety, and belonging?
Yeah, I realized that home is not only my space, but it's my people, the language I choose to speak. It's my responsibility for my space. It's a commitment to be Ukrainian, even if I'm not in Ukraine, if I'm abroad, to bring Ukrainian perspective and to do everything possible to talk about Ukraine, to explain the situation about Ukraine. This is my home. Yeah. And geographically, of course, Ukraine is my home. Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. So, how those events have really shaped the way you think and feel about resilience?
Yeah, resilience is, for me, it's almost equal to adaptation and self-reflection, because you should transform this at one point maybe negative experience you have into something meaningful to make yourself stronger. So resilience is also about solving problems, continue working under pressure, under these circumstances we have, and to be very practical and to the point, not just talking without actions.
Right. And not just talking without action means you still need to keep doing things, be hopeful that change will come, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Because before the war, we can talk a lot, then say, I'm going to do it tomorrow, postpone it, and then the day after tomorrow. Right now, it's you don't have time. You should be very, very concrete if you want to do something.
Right.
Yeah.
And that kind of give you a different definition for hope compared to how you see hope before.
Yeah. Hope right now, it's completed project, like safe arrival, something, good food right now, something like that. Very, very, very accomplished things.
Okay. So looking forward, what are you becoming through this experience? Who is Olga becoming?
Right now, I can say that I don't plan at all. It would be not true. I would say that I plan very, very carefully. I waste less time on things which are not important. Um, I focus on something which is important right now without postponing it. Um, and I try to exercise like practical integration of this experience and the new life here, which is, of course, it's different, but I think that adaptability and resilience actually helped me, assisted me a lot being here in the United States.
Okay. So, what does healing look like for you, even if, it's still ongoing?
Yeah, you're right. It's still ongoing. It's just living and working with what's going on. Just continue living.
What would you tell another woman living through a crisis right now?
Um, I would suggest them that advice that I would probably give to myself: do what is necessary. Protect mental energy. It's very important. Don't spread it on things which are not important. And keep making decisions even this under these circumstances.
Olga, your story isn't only about Ukraine. It's about displacement, about uncertainty, and about how quickly normal can disappear. And yet, it's also about agency, the quiet, powerful act of continuing to choose yourself. Olga's story reminds us that rising doesn't always look triumphant. Sometimes it looks like staying present. Sometimes it looks like grief. Sometimes it looks like choosing to remember who you are. If this episode moved you, I invite you to sit with it, to learn more, to listen deeply. You can read Olga's full story in She Chose to Rise, wherever you can get your book from. Or you can come back and listen to this episode. You can share it with someone who needs it. And you can reflect on what rising means in your own life right now. I am Mariatu, and this is She Chose to Rise, a Global Rise and Soar production in partnership with Engage Salon. Until next time, rise.